Did you know that 70% of Americans will study at a four-year college, but less than 2/3 will graduate with a degree, according to College Atlas? As a student who first attends college, it is important to identify challenges and obstacles that can occur throughout your college career. We are currently college students of varying ages and experiences. However, we have identified the top 3 challenges we have faced and ways we've learned to overcome them. In our presentation, our goal is to inform you about what we know now and what you should know in order to be successful. Monica is going to discuss time management. Inez is going to discuss memory, note-taking, and study techniques. And I am going to be discussing the professor-student dynamic. Among many important things, the first that will be discussed is time management.
So time management is very important when you start college. As an adult, we all have daily activities to deal with, along with the fact that we have families and jobs as well. So when you become a college student, you now have to make time for homework assignments, projects, and exams. So this is why it's very important to create a schedule ahead of time. This will help prepare you for what you have to do in a week's advance. So let's say, for example, you have a final on Friday and you have to commit 3 hours towards this exam. So instead of waiting till the last minute to cram everything, if you prepare ahead of time, you can commit an hour for, say, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to help manage your time. So I know myself, I have done this where I waited till the last minute to cram for an exam, and because of this, I actually got a bad grade. And it's actually a lot easier said than done when you actually try to apply your time management skills. According to Lucier from US News, it takes time to learn how to manage your college academic schedule, on what you can handle when it comes to curricular management, and what your body needs to function well in a college environment. So the most important thing in order to apply these skills is to have a system. So whether you use a calendar app on your phone, or you have Google Calendar, or you even have a paper calendar, when you create the schedule ahead of time, it will help you stay on track and commit to your plans and follow through with this. And this will also help you create good study habits it'll help you create good study habits because of the fact that you're not cramming everything last minute. So since time management is a key concept that I wish I would have followed, when I first started college, I actually failed my English Comp 1 exam, or English Comp 1 class, because I didn't manage my time properly. I thought I was able to handle all the assignments, and I waited till the last minute, and I wasn't able to. So I ended up dropping out of the class, and I got an F because of this. So now this follows through on my transcript, and I just dropped my GPA. So I hope you learn from my mistakes and start applying time management so you won't find yourself in the same situation that I was in. So if you don't know how to start time management skills, most colleges actually offer these classes on how to practice these skills. So I recommend that you take the time and plan ahead, and you'll be one step closer towards college success. So as a college student, studying must be included in your schedule. My partner Inez will now give you some memory, note-taking, and study tips.
As a college student, you're constantly exposed to a variety and significant amount of information that we must retain. According to Christine Harrington, author of textbook Student Success in College, Doing What Works, we all contain a memory process consisting of encoding, storage, and retrieval. The process encoding is to retrieve information, receive information into the memory system. So for example, in a class setting, you have to give your undivided attention to using your auditory and visual input to retain what the professor is saying. So using your auditory and visual input helps retrieve information easier from the memory system. Next process is storage. Keep memories through techniques like chunking, elaborating, and mnemonics. You contain 3 subsystems: your short-term memory, your working memory site, which is awareness and thinking, and long-term memory. Clearly, each differ in memorization duration and capacity. Transferring facts to long-term is to relate it to something you already know. For example, if you're learning someone's name, you can relate that to a similar name of someone you already know. The next and final process is retrieval, and it's learning by recalling information and finding memories when needed. Some memory strategies are rehearsal. So when you're learning information, it quickly disappears if you're not actively using it. So repeat and rehearse. Although this is a good technique, it's very temporary. The next memory strategy is elaboration. So you attach meaning to new content being learned. So you associate new information with familiar memory, which makes it easier to recall. Also, connecting it to examples is the best way to retrieve information. So if a professor is teaching about effective presentation, relate it to an experience that you had with presenting, and it helps you remember easier. The next memory strategy I will talk about is chunking. It is most effective because it organizes it into manageable and meaningful units or chunks. So example, note cards or an outline. Stories and emotions also help for memory. So stories capitalize chunking because they're the introduction, a body, and a conclusion, and they also trigger emotions, which is easier to remember. Lastly is mnemonics, and it's creating a word from the first letter of multiple concepts. Note-taking is a good way for note-taking is printing out the PowerPoints and take additional notes with that, and the PowerPoint just creates additional structure. Also, emphasize key points with a highlighter or marker. Reorganize notes after class into a more effective format and study your notes daily. Now that you are aware of memorization techniques and note-taking, my partner Jamie will inform you about student-professor dynamic.
So, one of the other main points in achieving academic success is understanding the professor-student dynamic. Terry Osborne, an environmental studies professor at Dartmouth, said, "I want to teach students and not the material. That means if I keep the students primarily in mind and the material secondary, the learning of the material manifests itself more effectively. My focus is not necessarily on getting across the material. My focus is on getting across the material to the students. The material seems to have more of an impact when I keep in mind that this is an interaction between me and the students." Each professor is going to start their course with a syllabus and their own rules, and it's important to know that each of your professors is going to be different. For example, know what type of communication that your professor likes. Email, text, phone calls, office visits. Last semester, my English professor gave out her personal cell phone number in the beginning of the class and said she does not communicate with email and to only call her phone. But I can tell you that many other professors will never give you their cell phone number, and they actually prefer email. So it's important to know from day one what each professor prefers. Also, it's ideal when you first sit down, day one of that class, to memorize your professor's name and their title. Dr., Mr., Mrs. It's important to give them a respect and credibility that they have worked so hard to earn. Another perspective on the professor-student dynamic is recognizing their rules. If your professor has a no drinks, no food policy, then don't bring them. If your professor has a no electronics policy, then put them away. By learning your professor and following their individual guidelines, you are greatly increasing your chance of success in their classroom. Many professors are going to go above and beyond for you when you've given them the respect as a student. As the professor from Dartmouth, Terry Osborne, indicated, if I keep the students primarily in mind and the material secondary, the learning of the material manifests itself more effectively. So really, you can't go wrong when having a positive dynamic with your professor. So we have discussed time management, we have discussed techniques for studying memory and notes, and the professor-student dynamic.
So in conclusion, time management is important to allow you to juggle your everyday life and your commitment to your classes as a college student. Being exposed to a variety and significant amount of information, it is important to be aware of these memory techniques and note-taking skills. And it is imperative to know your role as a student and the expectations of your professor in order to ensure academic success in your individual classes. A college degree has a higher investment return for a graduate in the United States than any other nation. So this is why it is important to overcome these obstacles we talked about to continue towards your college success. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.